Welcome to a truly remarkable episode of Circle of Trust. Today, we have the honour of introducing two exceptional women who have not only achieved extraordinary success as executive leaders in their fields, but also have are powerful catalysts for positive change. I'm delighted to welcome Marguerite Soeteman-Reijnen and Denelise to our show. I think what sets Marguerite and Denelise apart is this unwavering commitment that they have to creating organizations and cultures that truly embrace diversity and inclusion. They understand that in order to achieve greatness, it is all about getting the individual to contribute their unique talents and perspectives. What I also really admire from the times I've known Denelise and Marguerite is this real attitude and getting other women involved. And they're not only role models, they're also on a mission to open doors for others as well. Really happy that you guys are here today. Thank you.
Well, today's conversation marks an important milestone in our podcast journey. And we have spent time exploring our own team. And now we have the privilege of engaging with external guests who embody the principles and values that we hold. Marguerite, Denelise, welcome. And I want to express my warm and sincere gratitude for joining us today. And your experiences, insights are truly inspiring for me personally. And I'm sure that the audience will find it rich as well. So just let us dive deep into the conversation. And let's explore the transformative power of inclusive leadership, innovation, and tech for good. And could you just please share some highlights of your journey and pivotal moments that shaped your career?
So thank you for the question. It's a pleasure to be here today. And I think that to an answer to your question, I think it's about, the highlights of my career have also been not always highlights. It's by falling down and standing up again. And showing resilience. And I always like to point out the analogy of a CEO who was interviewed by a reporter, and he was asked to state in 2 words the reason for a successful career. And the CEO stated, by taking the right decisions. The journalist wasn't really satisfied with this answer and said okay, but tell me, how did you come to take those right decisions? And the CEO answered, by experience. Journalists still not satisfied, how journalists can be. And he answered, he asked the question, so how did you get, to take the right decisions by, the experience? How did you get that experience? And the CEO answered, by taking the wrong decisions. Now, I think that's, to summarize, life is not always a straight road. It has hills and it has valleys. And it's important to show perseverance to remain relevant, not only for your firm, but more important also for yourself, and to stay close to yourself and to take a look what you can learn from the downs in order to achieve new ups. So for me, it's all about perseverance, resilience, being of relevance, and adapting to the change outside you, which is extremely important because the change is happening at the moment very fast on all fields. Thanks. Back to you, Nat.
Yeah, that's a very inspiring. And I love to hear, Denelise, your journey as well.
Thank you, Nat. And I'm also very grateful to be here. And thanks for inviting me. Highlights come through lowlights. And I've seen it throughout my own career also. I remember my first job as a people manager. And I didn't understand why it didn't work. I was not trained. I was telling people to do what to do, with all the good intent, and they were not doing it. And I really didn't understand why. I thought I was a bad manager until I got to a next job after and learned leadership is training. You need to be self-aware and you need to learn how these things work. It is not easy. You cannot just lead people. And even if you have natural skills, it's a lot of work to continue to stay abreast. And over time, I learned that if people are put in what they like to do, if they use their talents, it is amazing what you can achieve. And then if you put a whole group of people together who do that, you create a collective intelligence which can solve so many problems. My overall conclusion is I have a lot of lowlights in my career where learning moments, not necessarily lowlights, but learning moments in my career which created the highlights. And the highlights were the overall highlight, I would say, one of the things I'm super grateful for is I helped collaborate on a book on If All the Brains Are Working. And that is a book written by a Dutch author, Saskia Schepers. I'm hoping it will be translated in English not quite soon. And the technology will help us with that, I'm sure. And that is about that we have to respect everybody's personalities. And if we can, and everybody can use their talents and be who they are, then we can create amazing teams who help organizations thrive.
That's very inspiring, Denelise. Yeah, like a moment of applause.
I think that really.
That's amazing and so inspiring, especially for someone like me who is already kicking off the career. Like hearing from you both ladies is very inspiring and educational for me as well. So my second question directing to you, Denelise, again, is what role do you believe technology plays in shaping the modern business landscape, as you just, brought this up in your last statement, but I want to hear more about it, that how you think it will impact the future of careers?
It's a challenging question with maybe not an easy answer, but I would say, how did technology influence my career? When I started, we were just on email, so I already betray a little bit my age here. We were just on email and started to work with tech, and the internet was coming up at the time. And in my first roles, I started to see the options already of what that technology could mean. I was working for a publisher at the time. We started to do things online, offer much more learning, self-learning online. And I saw the amazing results on accessibility of learning to a wider group of people. So from very early in my career, I have been very active with digital transformation. And I would say that we're now at the point, it's not digital transformation because everybody needs to be digital and use technology. Every company becomes a technology company, but it becomes more about transformation. And transformation is not easy because, and it requires a lot from leaders also, because it means change. And out of nature, people are built to not change too much because we are built for survival, and change means that you're putting yourself often at risk. And so our natural being tells us, be careful with big change. And at the same time, we all have to change a lot at the moment, and nobody can go around it. No company can go around it anymore. We read in the newspapers every day that these kind of jobs are going to disappear, and so many jobs will be replaced. Everybody hires for the same type of people with tech backgrounds, and there just are not enough. So we're very, very interesting times. So if you see how technology shapes every organization right now, every organization has to go through transformation and realize they have to upskill the people they have on board, because it's just impossible to be hiring all these AI specialists we're looking at right now. So there's an enormous transformation in the world going on, and we are in an enormous shift. We realize at this time is that with that transformation, we say now on generative AI, that we need to work on the regulation, and you see that happening all over the world in countries and in regions, also like the EU coming up with the EU Act. So this is what is really influencing business right now. Not only on the technology side, there are also some other influences which create a bit of a chaos. But even if we look at science, periods of chaos go into periods of structures and then go into periods of chaos again. So it's something we have to face and we have to deal with.
I thought it was really quite interesting in terms of how much that sort of transformative change that's going on in terms of organizations really having to rethink how they're looking at technology. They obviously want the innovation, but it's that transformative and the change piece that's quite critical, and also brings different sort of skill sets that people need from a technology perspective, but also from a leadership perspective.
Absolutely. It requires more self-awareness.
And it's that adaptability that Marguerite talked about, sort of learning as you're becoming a leader and learning as you go through and adapting, new technology, adapting your leadership style, what you're focusing on as well. And Marguerite, curious to hear about the types of technology that you're really excited about at the moment. We know there's a lot of technology out there, but What are the ones that you're really interested in and excited about at the moment?
Yeah, thanks, Ina. There's so much happening as we speak, and you've already elaborated on the speed of change and on the change and the adaptability of change. I think that Denelise touched on generative AI. It provides a lot of opportunities because it's also enabling us machine learning, data analytics, the past 10 to 15 years with the collection of data, of which in the meantime, the majority has been collected the past years. A lot of it is still unstructured, but it provides immense opportunities. And it's a matter of actually embracing that opportunity and that change. And if you look at the opportunity for generative AI, machine learning, it's already enabling, for example, doctors to do surgery by computer, from not to be in the surgery room, but to do surgery from a distance. And all those technologies will help humanity to go to next phases. Now, there's a lot of discussion about the threats of them and the disadvantages. And this is also something which humankind has always shown. Whenever there's change, in principle, we are averse of the change. We don't embrace it, but react defensively. What's better? All of us who have grown up with Lego and have had that in our hands, which is tangible, we might say Lego. But if you ask maybe someone who's 12, who might say, hey, Minecraft. If you ask, I asked these questions once to a number of CEOs, which included the CEO of Lego. And I think Minecraft is a three-dimensional Lego. And it enables you to do a lot more things faster and more immense than only Lego. But I think this is an example of how humankind is always a little bit averse against change, and also in this respect, technology. On the one hand, we want progress, and that's an important aspect of how we achieve and look for new opportunities. On the other hand, we're a little bit averse, maybe even risk averse. And so it's a matter of balancing these things. Now, back to regulatory circumstances, there's now a lot of talk indeed about regulation with AI, generative AI. I think it's a matter of, taking a look how we can embrace speed, how we get rules and regulations which do protect humanity, but also how we can adapt to the change of it and can embrace it with the right form.
Yeah, I think that comment that you just made about how that fear, you do see a lot more sort of fear mongering going on rather than just the opportunities. I think it's finding that balance between having the regulations there to safeguard and protect people, but also allowing us to have that creativity to really innovate and sort of play in this new technology space. And like you say, the opportunities that are there in healthcare, just for our day-to-day lives, it's quite amazing how quickly we've made a really big leap. This is a question to both of you, and maybe we could start with Denelise. How important do you think it is for leaders, especially senior leaders, who perhaps haven't actually grown up with a lot of this technology, but how important is it for them to keep up to date with the ongoing changes in technology and innovation?
Yeah, exactly. And it is a challenge because these day jobs are very demanding jobs. I can speak for myself. And even I realized also that me with quite a good technology background find it difficult to stay abreast of all the developments. And there was so much going on also on LinkedIn for a while on AI, generative AI, that you think, oh, how am I going to stay up to date with this? But I think one of the most important things is we need to do in these times of change, and you see a big shift now in tech and opportunities, is that we as leaders, we stay calm. Because, and we have to realize that we have to do what we always do and what we're good at if we are good leaders. And that is really take care of the governance within our organizations. So also Marguerite also mentioned it earlier, and there's new rules coming up, new regulation coming up, there are new standards coming up in the areas of tech and inclusive tech. That is governance. I mean, these regulations have always been there also in other areas. We've put data specialists in place and data governance experts in place when GDPR in Europe was coming out. And now we need data and probably AI specialists who take care of that governance in our organization so we can do good governance. One of the things I think for leaders right now is that education is a challenge for all. And maybe to say education is now a problem for all. And I am pretty excited about that. I'm a techno-optimist in general. I have a big heart for education. I used to work in education technology. And what you saw is a lot of people see that as a challenge for schools or universities and governments or big central organizations. But now education has become a challenge, a problem of all of us. Because to my point earlier, if we go out and expect to hire all the right skills, it's not going to happen. So we need to educate people within our organizations to understand how technology can augment their jobs and the things they do in a positive manner. And for that, there's also an education on the urgency of this kind of knowledge which needs to be created. We can't sit and wait and hope that it's going to be all fine. Then we have a risk that our jobs are going to be obsolete. If we sit and learn and realize how much technology can augment us and augment the things we do, we have amazing possibility. So to Marguerite's point, when you have a point of big change, we all sort of stare as rabbit in the headlights for a while. I think this is the nature of humanity. And then when we stay calm, we realize, well, it's not going to change completely overnight. We have some time. And we all have to make sure that we educate ourselves and our organizations, the people in our organizations, people in the world about the possibilities and also the risks with tech and what we need to do about it. So I'm excited because education is finally a problem of all, and we can augment ourselves with tech.
I love that, Denelise, that sort of calm in the storm of all of this innovation and things, but guiding that light and using your leadership as a real sort of beacon, really, in that sort of, to continue the analogy. And Marguerite, from your perspective, as a senior leader, how important has it been for you to keep up to date with some of this technology and advancements?
Yeah, I think it's essential because if you're in the boardroom, I think now a number of new topics are part of the boardroom discussions, whether it's technologies or whether it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, and so on. And, if you take a look how suddenly in the past years we've seen the risk of cyber tech, it's part of our day-to-day business. It's a bigger risk for some companies and their property. Cyber is one of the largest risks. We notice it. There's an increase of cyber attacks to all of us, whether it's private individuals or whether it's companies. So back to the boardroom. So a number of new topics have come on the boardroom. I already mentioned the speed, and the speed is actually what's causing some of the boardroom members, I think that the executive committees are okay because they live it and live it through day to day. The non-executive directors, they need to speed up their knowledge about a number of topics because they're not so close to it anymore. Education, especially on technology and the opportunities and the threats of it, is essential. If you take a look at everything what's going on, I think what we see is that while we used to have 5-year strategy plans or 3-year strategy plans or 1-year strategy plans, I think at the moment, with what's all going on in the world, you need to reassess what's going on and what's relevant for you and relevant for your company every day in order to make sure that you meet your clients' needs and meet even your clients' unmet needs. So a lot of change, a lot of speed, a lot of transparency. We haven't mentioned that, which comes along. It's all in the press, in the social media before you know it's already happening. So it requires leaders to be very assertive, to be collaborative, to be command and control, but also to show compassion for their staff. And Denelise already mentioned it. Talent is a big issue for some of us. So in order to make sure that you have the right talent, you need to be attractive to the talent. Make sure that your values and that of your company that meet values of your potential employee workforce. But also take a look at what are the skills and capabilities for the future. And that's changing as well because of technology. So you need to make sure that indeed with education and internal universities or external education, you make sure that your workforce is up to date with the challenges and the changes outside.
Yeah, and it's this nimbleness that you describe and also this education and empowerment. This is really one of the reasons we kind of brought Circle of Trust together, really creating this kind of safe environment for people to learn about Web3, which we're in now, emerging technologies. And, part of the reason we're doing some of these podcasts and some of these immersive events that we're doing is really about how do you get senior executives in these kind of spaces and really help them to understand the business value. So that's what we're really trying to do here. And we really appreciate you supporting us in this as well.
And it's interesting also for all the listeners and viewers. I think it's important to notice that we need all of us in order to make that change happen and to embrace it. So, of course, there's also a discussion around climate change, discussion around a number of other topics, and it's very important to stay collaborative and to learn from each other. And I think the dialogue is especially important. Engaging in dialogue, and even if somebody has a different opinion or another insight, try to learn from it, because it might actually enable you yourself to uncover your blind, and all of us have blind.
Well, I really enjoyed and learned a lot from this part of the conversation. I am seeing it closely that how this transition is going forward, but still there are some other aspects to what we are experiencing right now, which I love to bring up and ask from you, your perspective on this. The high volatility experience in the past year and the ongoing challenges that businesses are facing right now. I can just point out the budget cuts and significant layoffs. The job market has become exceptionally competitive in the past few years. Especially, I will say, after the rise of AI, we are seeing a lot of this happening, concerns that, businesses are facing right now, and how they should just integrate AI inside within their pipeline. So these are all making the market very competitive. Which sectors or industries have continued to perform steadily despite all these challenging circumstances, in your opinion? And additionally, how we should focus on the resources to ensure that we are getting the most out of what we have, getting the success and within the current landscape. Denelise, I will go with you first, and then I love to hear from Marguerite.
Thank you, Ned. Well, I speak for the company I work with, the BSI Group, a British Standards Institution. And we have been really growing, because what you can see at the moment is the need for trust, and in this world is just increasing. Marguerite mentioned also sustainability being on the agenda of every organization. We see that also. I see that everywhere in organizations we work with. I am also leading sustainability initiatives internally in BSI for some of them in Europe, and it's highly interesting to see that companies have digital trust, cybersecurity, and sustainability all on the agenda right now. And the need for understanding how to progress, to comply with the rules, or to work or to make progress, because we all need to make progress, not only because there's regulation out there. So our business has been really growing. I do think that trust is important. And we start to become more aware. We cannot just have a supply chain and then, hope that it's going to be okay if we have that supply chain outside of our own countries or continents. We have to understand that we're doing the okay thing and we're treating people in the right way. So I've seen that our business has been significantly growing over the last years. Of course, companies have challenges, and it's not only the technology out there, it's geopolitical challenge, sustainability challenge, cybersecurity challenges. This enormous change we're living in. So I come to the point back what I said earlier. We have to stay calm and focus. If we realize where our value is and how that value can be augmented with technology, and we place a bit of less priority on a different area, we also make space for more innovation. So if I look at where to focus the resources, find with your organization, where is the value? Where's that one or two places where I deliver the value? Make sure you focus increasing that value, and then make space for innovation by looking at other areas where you maybe deliver less value and you're not gonna in a while. So you really can focus on being more agile and growing with your organization, growing the learning in your organization.
Over from you, it's Marguerite again. Very good, you indicated value. That's an important sector, really an important sector. It's also about being self-aware, that you know as an organization where your value lies. And then learning from that, and indeed looking how to innovate and meet unmet client needs. And I think especially technology can definitely assist in meeting unmet client needs. If you look at the Fortune 500, also be aware that, It's about reinventing and reinvigorating yourself. And if you look at the Fortune 500 companies which were there in 1995, and there were only 17 companies in the Fortune 500 company now, which were not yet there in 1995 when the internet emerged. So the 483 others have already been there in some extent. And the 17 which are new now are, of course, the companies, it's Google, it's Meta, Tesla. And so it's an interesting one for smaller companies in order to become part of the big and to scale up. It requires you to be adaptive to what's going on, but also be aware of the fact that scale is important and that at some moment you might want to partner with the larger companies. And whether it's the IBMs or the Philipses who reinvent or reinvigorate themselves, it's also challenging, but it provides you with an opportunity as well.
I wonder how that's going to that trend will continue with the bigger players still taking the lion's share in terms of that market, or how will it change with innovation. One thing that I'm curious about, Marguerite, just because you touched on it now, is how do organizations encourage this sort of creativity and out-of-the-box thinking, especially with all the technology and innovation that's around the corner?
It's a very, very good question. I think it's happening way too less as it should be. I think the larger organizations, which are really structured organizations with very firm line management. But the challenge you have is if you define a box at the moment for people, they might only stay in their box and don't go outside their box, because then they might be threatened to do something outside their responsibility, or the manager might feel offended or threatened. I think it's very important to give every employee the creativity and also the freedom and liberty to explore new opportunities within every role and each role everyone has. Then you're actually stimulating creativity. If you're only telling a person you're allowed to do this, this, and this, and this is what you should do, I think that the creativity part is not as much explored as it could be. And this is a challenge for large organizations because they used to run very structured organizations. I think what you see in the management styles is that there's some management authors who talk about flat organizations, the pancake organizations, because that allows people to be more agile, to be more creative. It depends. I can't give the answer. I won't give the answer on this podcast. I think it's important to take a look at what's needed for your organization to excel and to accelerate what you want to achieve, and what approach and structure and business model and target operating model is the best suiting to the situation.
Like you say, it's not one answer for every organization. It is that real focus on thinking about what suits your organization. How do you create these environments to encourage this creativity? And on the other side of that, Denelise, maybe I can ask you, how do organizations also get the upskilling as well that people need? You don't want to be in an environment where people are worried about their jobs, which we indicated earlier, but how do organizations get that upskilling going to, really get the best out of their employees?
Again, what we're talking about is cultural change. Marguerite says it really greatly, that we have organizations which are very structured. So you saw product-oriented organization moving to service-oriented organization. So what you now see is networked organization. It is all about sharing knowledge and collaboration. In a networked organization becomes easier because it's not about who's in the structure. It is about the teams you create to solve a certain challenge and learn from each other on a continuous basis. But therefore, we need to create organizations which are able to do it. And it's not easy. It requires a plan. So again, a bit of structure. But it requires a plan, and it requires from the top. It really requires on the top to say, hey, we're going to move in these directions and we're going to do the right things. You can say we need to be a learning organization, but if you just do it, if you don't take the right action, nothing will happen. And you have to show as leaders that you're doing also this. So you have to show that you work beyond silos, because you still see many larger organizations having different divisions, etc. So you have to show that you work across silos, that you collaborate together, and that you keep on learning also on the highest levels, and then put a really good plan in place to make sure that there's education everywhere in your organization. When you onboard people, when you help them progress, when new technology comes out, that you make sure that there is availability for people to learn what this is about. So they can also, and everybody can also think about how this can help me. Because the answers for this are not in the boardroom, they're throughout the organization. So as the boardroom, you can only create the environments and the clear direction that you want to be a learning organization. But it's complicated. It's not easy. It takes time.
This is definitely about what the boardroom can influence, is to create the right culture in the organization. And that's not an easy task. It's the most important task in my, because that's enabling high-performing teams to perform.
Most scientists all over the world brag their heads because we spend millions at many organizations. And in some cases it works, and in some cases it doesn't. And we're still sometimes not completely clear why. What you do see is now more and more lines together with corporate anthropology, where they say where it works is where the leadership is really devoted to shape a culture together with all the people in the organization of what it should look like. Culture we want all together. If we need to do this, what is the culture then we want to have together? And everybody needs to commit, but it needs to be led by the highest level in the organization, because if that's not the case, then that movement will not start. And the boardroom does have the ability to help create those movements and lead by example. Continue to show, I keep saying it, shadow leadership. I say so many times to my team when they ask something, I don't know, I have to look it up. I'm not aware of this. It is new stuff. And but let me find out more. And then you also show that you don't need to have all the wisdom and power to lead.
Well, I want to ask a kind of a fun question from all of you. I also like Hina to answer this as well after Marguerite and Denelise, that if you could actually give your younger self some advice now, what would it be? What would you say to them? Particularly, I want to focus on women who are interested in pursuing their careers and, the industry right now.
Give advice to my younger self is get rid of your imposter syndrome earlier, because the higher you get in organizations, and I sit in also for my job in many boardrooms, and I remember the beginning going in there where I'm thinking, oh, these people know so much. Oh, can I ever be in this level? And we have so many voices telling us you cannot do it, you're not good enough. And then society, especially with women, there's so much still bias in our world. So the advice I give to my younger self is don't let anybody label you. Don't listen to some of the things people say. Just follow your heart and throw all these voices you have on your shoulder. Tell them to shut up.
Amazing.
I'm not going to give any advice to my younger self, because if I would give advice to my younger self, I might not be here, because I think from all the things, and that's how we started, I've learned from all my highs and lows in life. And that's why I've become who I am. But if I'm to give anyone advice outside myself, I think the biggest advice I would give is to believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, you can't expect anyone else to believe in you. So it starts with you believing in yourself. And then the second thing I want to give everyone along is, be the one for someone else who you needed when you were younger. And all of us will remember some periods in time in our own career where we needed the person who wasn't there. And try to be that person for someone else, your organization or your circle of friends. And the last point, what I would like to advise anyone is build not only within your company and your stakeholders, put your own board of directors, your personal board of directors together of people who outside your firm can give you some advice at certain points in time. And I'm not meaning your husband, your partner, your daughter, your mom. Now, really, your own personal board of directors, some people in business who might be able to help you at certain points in time, who can give you some advice from an outside-in perspective so that you actually know how to use all the skills and capabilities you've built to create more impact.
Okay, I'll go as well. And I think there's a couple of things I would say to myself. And I think the first thing is just go out there and have a go, dare a little bit more. The second thing is ask for what you want. There is so much power in making it known what you want, what you're trying to achieve, and putting your ambitions out there. Especially when I was younger, I was a bit shy, so I kind of held myself back. Also, you don't need to know everything. As I extended my career and became into management roles and things, I kind of felt that if I didn't know everything, then I wasn't a good enough leader. But I know now that that's total rubbish, and you can ask more from your teams and that creating a team that fills in each other's gaps is very powerful. And the other thing is, don't underestimate your network and, leveraging your network for other people and also networking with people. I know sometimes people don't like that word, and that creating that sisterhood or people who are in your corner, who cheerlead you, help you, and really working with them. I've learned that as I've got older, but I perhaps didn't know that when I was starting off. But I think there's a lot of opportunity for people these days, which we can all embrace and enjoy, and find the thing that makes you unique, and go for it, would be my advice to my younger self or to anybody.
Very inspiring. Thank you for all sharing.
So I think, Ned, I think we're really like a couple of minutes in. So we do have to end our podcast. And I really want to thank our guests, Marguerite and Denelise, for coming on this show with us and giving us all this inspiration, all these ideas. I've loved having some of this conversation on how technology is evolving the role of the leader and making sure that the leader has to be really a guiding light, bringing together all this technology, upskilling their people, and also being somebody who takes away some of the fear and the sting out of, potentially what could go wrong, but bringing this whole technology and innovation and giving people a place of a little bit more play and creativity and innovation that they can bring to the table. It kind of goes back to what we were saying about you two ladies in particular being really leaders who are all about embracing people and diversity and inclusion and allowing people to come to the table as they are. So I'd really like to thank you for today's show. It's been great to speak to you. Maybe in 6 months or a year's time that you can join us again for another episode of Circle of Trust. So thank you very much.
Now, final observations from my end, Ned. I think it's important if you take a look at the circle of trust. So what is this about? It's about getting to know technology like the Web3 in a different way. And it allows you to grow, it allows you to learn, and it allows you to stay curious. And I think that's, for me, the most important part of learning, is to stay curious, to be curious, and to continue to learn. So I wish you all the best with what you're trying to get established. And Denelise, it was a pleasure again to be with you. You're always an inspiration. So thank you for having us today.
Thank you so much. Also, I echo Marguerite's word, and Marguerite knows I very much look up to a lot of the things she has achieved in business, but also for other women. She's an amazing role model. So I always feel very humble if I'm allowed to sit next to her. I think the conclusion is my own values of leadership, which is very similar to what Marguerite said. Collaboration, learning. But the last one, which is incredibly important for me, is humor. We tend to take ourselves sometimes very serious, but humor is so important in our day-to-day lives and in business to look with more light to the things we do. And thank you for having me.
Thank you.